If you could change any choice you have ever made, would you? You can always make another choice and change the course of your success. Everyone has the potency to make inspired choices. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the creativity that is you. Now, here is the host of the Inspired Choices Show, business optimization expert, Christine McIver.
Okay, welcome everyone. Tonight we are talking all about it. The dip's not a dip. It's actually a trampoline. Oh my gosh, we are going to have so much fun talking about this show tonight. I have been thinking about this. It's been coming up in my world quite a bit, and I wonder if it's also coming up in yours. It's a really important topic, and it's something that I think you might be actually quite surprised of, so that things will change in your world. And so I'm really excited to have you here tonight. So my name is Christine McIver. I am the host of Inspired Choices Show. This is a live show, a radio show, a podcast, and a TV production. So if you're here for the first time, welcome. If you're a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're joining me on Facebook, I would love to hear your comments and your questions. You can put them right in the Facebook Live, or you can come on over to inspiredchoicesnetwork.com/chat room, and we will talk all about this show tonight, and you can be asking questions live. So before we jump into the show, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I am a business optimization expert. And what does that mean? So I love to work with people who are, yes, my producer just said that Christine will be jumping on a trampoline during commercials. No, I will not. But maybe, I don't know. Anyways, let me tell you who I am and what I do. So as a business optimization expert, I work with business owners to really look at where they can take what they're creating in the world and optimize it for not only financial wealth, but also for exposure to the world, how to get themselves showing up with ease, how to have consistency across everything that they're doing and all their platforms. That's just one aspect, though. Another big aspect of what I do is I work with them utilizing business psychology and individual human psychology, because you are a human being who brings your own fears, your own worries, your own concerns, your hopes and your dreams, everything. You bring all of it to the table when we're looking at business. And so not including all of that into creating and expanding your business is actually something that's going to cut off the possibilities. So as a business optimization expert, I also optimize you in what you're doing and how you do it. And so my deep desire is that you have more pleasure with your business in whatever you're doing and whatever you're creating. So that gives you a little bit more about me. If you are listening on one of our platforms, thank you so much. If you would like, you can find us. We have our own Inspired Choices Network phone app. You can find all of my live shows there, and also you can find all of these shows on demand. You can also find it on your favorite on-demand platform, both the audio program as well as the TV program. We are on over 300 smart TVs. You can find us, for instance, through Apple TV. You can find us on Google TV. You can find us on LG TV, Fire, Amazon Fire. You just go into the App Store and search Inspired Choices Network, and you will find all of our shows there. So thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments and you're listening after and you would like to contact me, you can email me, Christine at inspiredchoices.ca, and I will absolutely answer them personally. All right, so let's get into tonight's show. And no, I'm not getting on a trampoline. So the show again is called The Dip's Not a Dip, It's a Trampoline. Being in business can be very exciting until it takes a dip. And the dip can be paralyzing and stop us in our tracks. Has anybody experienced that? I know I certainly have, and I know most people have as well. After you recover from the shock, it can be a challenge to raise your hand and admit that you're in a dip and be vulnerable to share that it has you questioning your choice of going into business in the first place. I know a lot of people that have gone into a dip, have been embarrassed or felt shame or just really lost and confused or deeply, deeply sad. They can sometimes go into a deep depression around it, and then they won't share what's going on and actually leave something that used to really light them up. And that's a shame. So I'm hoping that tonight will help to contribute to you so that doesn't happen for you. What if the dip is really a trampoline in disguise? What if the dip is there to serve you and support you? And truly, when approached with a unique perspective, can bring you higher than you've ever imagined. So I am so thrilled to have you here with us tonight, and we're going to dive right into the show. If I didn't say it, we are on 450 platforms, 300 TV platforms, 80 on-demand audio podcast platforms, 55 live stream platforms, and of course here on the Inspired Choices Network. So you can't get away from us. We are everywhere. All right, let's jump into the show. So what is a dip? What is a dip? What do you imagine a dip is? So that's the first place to start looking. A lot of people, when you actually say a word, they will have their own definition of what that word means. And so that's the very first place that you want to start to uncover. What is a dip to you? Because what is a dip to you may not be a dip to the next person. And so if you're going through something, if you're being challenged with something, and you share that with another person, they may not realize that you are in a dip. So when I say a dip, what I'm referring to is a place where you fall down, where you feel out of control, where you feel like you're lost and there's nothing to grab onto. You're not sure how you're going to move forward. And it's certainly something that makes you anxious. It might make you very sad and depressed. It also might have you question everything that you are doing. So a dip can come in, it can come in the form of getting a really high bill that you weren't expecting, and suddenly you feel lost. A dip could be where you had a bunch of clients and suddenly they just like half of them leave. A dip can be a very severe change that you weren't planning for, you weren't prepared for, and that certainly takes you off guard. So there's all sorts of other things that could be defined as a dip, but that just gives you an idea of that. So how many of you feel like you've ever been in a dip before? And we're referring to this from a business perspective, but you can look at this from any perspective. You can look at this from a personal perspective. You can look at it from a perspective of where you're working. You can look at it from the perspective of relationships. It really can be applied to anywhere. So anywhere that things aren't going the way that you want them to go, and suddenly there's a severe change that has you go into worry and fear. Okay, so you want to start there. Is first of all, what is a dip to me? That's the very, very first thing you want to look at. The next thing that I want you to think about, so once you've defined what a real dip is for you, I want you to look at what is your default? What happens to you? What do you choose when you go into a dip? What is it for you? Do you suddenly go quiet? Do you suddenly go offline, like you're not interacting with people? Do you possibly stop communicating, stop answering people? Do you perhaps look in a different direction? You maybe try to scramble into another area. Do you maybe go into addictive behavior? Do you maybe start, really wailing, screaming and yelling, go into deep depression? Do you get really angry and start taking it out on things in your life? Maybe taking it out even on yourself. What is your default? And this is a very important thing, that you understand what your mode of reaction is to a dip in your life. Because when you can start to define a dip, what a dip is, and as well as you can acknowledge and recognize what your default is when you go into a dip, that's when you can step into the real driver's seat of changing this for yourself. So we have somebody in the chat room that says, I swear I do all these things. I would say my default is to retreat or go into hermit mode. Yeah, that actually behavior is very, very common, and it's one where we feel safe. So if you've ever heard about somebody who is sleeping a lot, they may be in depression. They may be in hiding mode, and where they just want to shut the world out. And, that's okay for sure to do for a period of time. But if that's something that you are doing repeatedly, the impact of that choice is going to be very far reaching, especially if this is something that you're doing in your business when you have clients or customers, or you need to be, in production of some kind, or you need to be reaching out and connecting with people and building your business. So you want to be very, very aware of that. Most people don't have the opportunity that they can go into hermit mode for a week or a month and still be okay with their financial situation, with their business continuing to grow. So you want to be able to look at that. But the very cool thing about this is, no matter what your default is, and some of the things that I'm going to be teaching you tonight, you can really start to change this. And it's easier than you may think. Now, I don't want you to think at all that if you've ever gone into a dip, that you are, whatever you experience when you are in that dip, I don't want you to think that it is not real. I don't want you to think that it is not significant, because when you're in a dip, and I have been in some dips that I was in such deep depression about, that there were moments where I actually thought maybe I shouldn't be here. Like, why am I here, right? When you're in that really dark place, you ask those questions, why am I here? And I want you to know that it's real, that what you are experiencing, what you are feeling at the time is real. But what I really want to invite you to is, I want you to invite you to the possibility that if you could take some of my steps today and start to apply them and remember them when you are in a dip, that you could get out of that dip faster than you ever have before. And even if it's 10% faster, each time you experience that 10% in just a few opportunities of feeling like you're back into that dip, you could be cutting it in half. You could be cutting it in 3/4. Who knows, right? But faster than it was is better than it was. Wouldn't you agree? So we're going to go to our first break of the show. And when we come back, I've got the next steps of what I want you to start to look at when we are getting into the dip, because learning to get out of this dip and acknowledging the dip is actually the biggest part of changing what's not working for us. So you're listening to Inspired Choices. I'm your host, Christine McIver, here on the Inspired Choices Network. Stick around, my friends. We'll be right back.
Many of us make choices based on our past experiences or based on what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join the Inspired Choices show with business optimization expert Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know, but may not choose, that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back. She brings all her expertise to every show. Are you ready to create and live the life you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with business optimization expert Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
All right. How do you like the new music, my friends? Just got that all changed up because we needed a change. And sometimes a change can actually create a dip. I didn't mean to do that, but that really worked out well. So we've got some conversation going on in the chat room, which is very, very cool. Someone says that, does my hermit mode have a safety valve? And my question for that was, who's driving the hermit mode? So sometimes, again, when you start to acknowledge what your response is, your default response is, you may have actually given up authority of that choice to your victim self. You may have given up that choice to your inner child, someone who, has gone through trauma and maybe isn't entirely healed. You may be actually choosing those things out of past responses. And that's so important to start to acknowledge and ask those questions. Okay, so we also have another question or comment in the chat room, actually by my producer, Kim. Wow, she said, I had an entirely different idea of what you meant by a dip. So there we go. There is a perfect example of you need to get that definition down in order to start looking at what the dip is. She said, I thought you meant like a drop in revenue and sales. Well, that's one of the types of dips that I'm referring to, Kim. It could be a drop in revenue and sales for your business. It also could be a massive change in your environment where you work. It could be a change in your clientele, in your customers, maybe even a service provider completely changes something and now it really throws you amok. These things have not happened to me, they've occurred in my business. And this is the part and partial why I'm talking about it being a trampoline. So, here we've got the comment. Exactly, Christina, I discovered that my inner teenager was being rebellious about life. There we go. So any aspect of you, and that might seem a little woohoo to some of you, but understand that any aspect of you that was once in your body and in what you experienced growing up at any stage, that's not gone. That can bring itself back out. And here's a perfect example. We've got Thanksgiving and we've got Christmas coming up in the next few months, right? And what happens when we get together with our root family? People talk about this all the time. There's support groups for it out there. When we get back together with our root family, we all line up, not physically line up, but we all line up into our old behavior. If you were the baby of the family, you might start to really act ridiculous, like as if you kind of the energy of a baby crying, like, oh, they're picking on me. And if you were the eldest in the family who had to take care of everyone else, you might move into a bit of the bully role, right? So we all still have those roles inside of me. And unless you're choosing to be very present and conscious with what you are choosing, you're going to miss that you're doing this again. And sometimes it takes a big intervention with a family member or with somebody who loves us very, very, very deeply. And we're willing to listen to them for us to begin to acknowledge what's actually occurring. So this is the next part that I really want to go over with. So we've talked about, what do you define as your dip or as a dip? Because you could have many dips. So when you think about a dip, I want you to define a dip by difficult times in your past. Look at that. What is something that occurs in your life and most especially in your business that really sends you into a tailspin? That's your dip. So you write those down. Then I want you to write down what is your default when those dips occur. When you go into a dip, what's your first response? And like your first response, even the first 5 minutes is important to see what you do, right? Because if you're somebody that does a lot of personal development, you might acknowledge something, I don't know, 5 minutes later, a day later, a week later, a month later, you might acknowledge it and then start to change it. But here's the thing. We want to go a little deeper so we can really change this on a permanent basis, okay? So really understanding your default and being willing to look at them and acknowledge them to yourself is important. Write them down so you are very clear with yourself. Don't just think about it. Oh yeah, I did this and I did that. Write them down, okay? My default has been anger. So I go really high with my anger. And then when I'm really up there high, I'm holding that really high anger space. And then I will fall really hard into a deep depression. And now that could occur over 24 hours. It could occur over a week. But I'll tell you, since I've been doing this acknowledgement, it's getting shorter and shorter all the time. And this is the next stage that I want to teach you about. So the next thing we want to teach you about is observant self-evaluation. So you want to become the observer. I can't say that tonight. The observer of your own self. This is a very cool exercise to be doing with yourself all of the time. So as you start to do it, it's not easy in the beginning because we're so engrossed and we're so invested in our anger or our depression or our hermit. We're so invested in it that we don't want to look at it. It's right for us. It's true. Damn it. I'm mad. This is bullshit. Whatever that is. And so when you start to look at yourself, and I often say, you know what, come up over here. Come up over here and look at yourself. Look at what is going on. Look at what you are doing. And start to acknowledge to yourself, wow, look at me. I'm really angry. Now, there's a difference in the way I say that. Not I'm angry, but I'm really angry. You can feel the energy where you're like, wow, like you've got that curious hat on, observing yourself, paying attention to your actions, paying attention to your words. You start to really collect your reactions and your actions. And you start to see how you're responding to something that's occurring. So let me tell you a very vulnerable story. When I first started to produce shows here, not here, I was on another platform, but they were still my clients. And I first started to produce with clients when I loved doing it so much, and I still very much do. But when those clients would leave, I would take it personally. I would be gutted. I honestly would. I would be so afraid to open an email. Depending on what the subject line said, I would be so afraid to open that email and to have them say I'm leaving. It would just send me into a spin. I would just sit down and I would cry. I have very high emotions. So I would either be very angry or very crying. But when these clients would leave, this was my big dip. When clients would leave and I would just go into deep, deep tears and upset. And then once I did that, I would go into massive fear. And it was nearly like I started, my feet started running below me because I was trying to figure out, oh my God, how am I going to survive? What am I going to do? You can pick up on that energy. It's very fearful. It's very not present. I'm not present with what's going on with my body. I'm not present with the truth of what's happening. I am going into that victim energy because that is what was my default in the past. When something would go wrong, I would go into that energy very, very quickly. And so when I really started to see this happening more and more, and I was able to come up here and acknowledge, hang on a second, I'm really having a huge response to this. I'm really upset about this. And And it took a toll. Like, I mean, imagine you're standing and you're screaming and you're yelling for days on end. That's not what I was doing, but imagine you're doing that. You're doing that screaming and yelling and fear. That very high adrenaline rush is going on in your body. It's exhausting. It can just burn you out. It can put you into so many really tangled places that it can stop you from moving forward. Absolutely. And if you're someone who has not yet stepped into really watching yourself and observing yourself, what can happen is when you're staying in that energy, you can absolutely start to attract more of that to you. And that's where I think the whole, oh my gosh, that's one. You know how people used to say, oh, bad luck comes in 3 or whatever they say, like it all comes in 3, right? I believe that's where it really stemmed from, because we're in that energy and we are pulling that towards us. We're actually, as we stay in that energy a long period of time, we're actually saying to the universe, this is what I'm asking for more of. So that's why, my friends, it's very important that you begin to acknowledge, oh, hang on, I'm in a dip. What's my default in this dip? And start to look at it. Really be willing to be vulnerable with yourself and acknowledge what is occurring, what you are choosing consciously or unconsciously. And that's generally where it's happening from, is from that unconscious state. But when you can go into that real observant self-evaluation, acknowledgement, writing it down. Oh my gosh, look at this. This is my response. When this happens in my life, this is my response. Without judgment. You don't need to add any judgment in there, although most people that are on a dip, that goes hand in hand. Judging yourself goes hand in hand when you're in, oh, look what you did. Well, you're really messed up. Like that voice, that critic in your head comes out louder and louder. And what I'm inviting you into, I'm really asking for you to pay attention from a third party outside viewpoint. Now, you could ask someone that you feel safe with to speak with you about it. You could ask them what they're observing, what they observe in you when you go into that. You could. But what I have found with a lot of people is even when they ask someone else, they go into criticizing themselves even louder. My friends, when you understand that this is normal, that everyone goes through it, and it's 100% changeable, get excited. When you can acknowledge those 3 things, get excited, because this, my friends, this is where you begin to take control. You're no longer at the effect of an old behavior or an old time in your life. You can still see it coming up. Like I know I can still see when my old behaviors will pop up and I'll be like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. There it is. Okay, it's all good. I got this. And it very quickly, I can probably move through and change that within, I would say 30 minutes to an hour. At least acknowledge it. And the minute you acknowledge that you're in a pattern, an old behavior that's definitely never done anything positive for you, then you're starting to come out of it. Then you're going into that expanded space where you can really start to unpack it and change it. And that's the key. You want to be in control. You don't want to be at the effect of a dip, because here's the truth. Dips are going to happen. And when we get back after this next break, I'm going to teach you why it's actually not a dip. I know I've been talking to you all about the dips. Now we're going to go into why it's actually not a dip and why it's a trampoline. So stick with us, my friends. You are listening to Inspired Choices here on the Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Christine McIver, and I'll see you right after this break.
Many of us make choices based on our past experiences or based on what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join the Inspired Choices show with business optimization expert Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know, but may not choose, that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back. She brings all her expertise to every show. Are you ready to create and live the life you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with business optimization expert Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine at InspiredChoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. If you've just started to listen to this show, we are talking about the dip's not a dip, it's a trampoline. Now, before we jump back into the show, I want to invite you to reach out and connect with me. My email is Christine at InspiredChoices.ca. You can find me on any social media platform. Of course, you can find me here at the network, InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. But what I would love to do is I would love to have a conversation with you and really see where it is that there's the opportunity for you to grow. What's going on? What's stopping you right now? And where's the window? Where's the gap of where you could jump and up level? I would love to give that to you, to spend some time with you. We'll spend 30 minutes together, and I know that we will find a window of opportunity for you to up level. And most especially if you're in business, that's one of my specialties, but I also do that with individuals and with relationships. So if that's something that you would like to have a conversation about, please reach out. Don't hesitate. There's nothing's going to happen except you and I are going to connect and have a great conversation. The other thing I want to share with you is here at the Inspired Choices Network, we are looking for fabulous people who love to bring their voice and their genius to the world. If you know of someone that you would love to hear on this platform, if you would love to be able to look on your phone or watch on TV, and they have a message that absolutely needs to be out into the world, again, email me, Christine at InspiredChoices.ca. We have a few spots left for hosts, and we would love to have somebody that you admire here on the network. Okay, let's get back into the show. So before we went to the break, we were talking about the person you were at any stage in your life can come back at any time of your life. So it's important to acknowledge where an old behavior or an old pattern is coming up. And then you really want to understand your default, and being willing to acknowledge them is incredibly important. Acknowledge them is actually halfway there to changing them. You want to become an observer of your own self, become an observer and do observant evaluation. And then the next thing that I want to talk to you about is I want you to sit down and I want you to think about, in the past, when you went into a reaction, right? Go back to that point in your memory. I want you to go back to that point in your memory. The last time you had a severe reaction, go to that point. Write it down. Write down exactly what the experience was, what occurred in your life. Get detailed about it, and then get very detailed about your response, which is usually a reaction, because a response is more like you thought about it and you took a step. Write down what your reaction was, all right? And then I want you to close the book after you've written that down, and I want you to sit with that. I want you to connect into that moment, and I want you to ask yourself, what would I do differently now? now that I know I reacted and it wasn't a great experience, what would I do differently now? And as you choose that, and as you really observe yourself choosing something different, you start to move into a real empowerment position, because you're making a conscious choice about a past situation. And then you're going to bring that consciousness forward with you. And writing that down is really going to help to solidify that in your memory bank and in your mind. And you're going to recall, oh yeah, I remember when I reacted. I remember when I freaked out. I remember when I got super sad. Oh my God, here I am in hermit mode. And I've been in here for a couple of days. Oh my gosh. And that, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment in whatever is occurring, but this is where you can start to move yourself out of this with more ease. Okay. Now, another thing that is extremely important is to have someone, if you can possibly have someone that you feel very comfortable being vulnerable with, and talk about, you know what? Oh my God, I got so angry. I just wanted to run away. And this is how I was feeling. I wanted to just pack up my business. I was talking to a friend the other day, and, I had actually been coaching her for some time around her business. And then I actually overheard her saying, I hate being in business. And I was shocked to hear her say that. And so we had a conversation around it. And it wasn't that she hated to be in business. It was that what she was experiencing and not feeling comfortable doing had her go into the dip and respond or react in that way. So when she said out loud, I hate being in this business, she started to reinforce that within her own mind, and then, of course, within her body. Now, if she stays in that energetic space, how much more business do you think is going to come her way? We need to honestly understand the power of our words and how they actually get embedded within us, and we keep repeating the pattern again and again and again. Now, here's the great thing. Here's the wonderful thing about the trampoline. So this is something that I learned, and I've been learning for some time, but I learned when I was really in a big dip. So you may have heard this story before, but one of the reasons my original profession was human resources, and I loved human resources. I really did. And there was a lot of different aspects to it, but it got to a point where it wasn't working for my life, and it wasn't working for my body, and it certainly wasn't working for my joy. And I was very stuck in fear and shame and worry and all of that muck. I was so stuck there that I couldn't see what was actually occurring. And it was probably a couple of months later, when things got more and more and more intense, that I actually had a nervous breakdown. And when I went home from work, and I told a friend this once, she's never forgot this. I closed the curtains. I just closed the curtains. I locked the door. I turned off the sound on my phone, and I didn't want to see anyone or talk to anybody for months. There was a lot of people that were close to me that had no idea what was going on. And at one point, my dip got so low, and I carried so much shame with me around this, that I lined pills up and I was going to take my life. I thought, you know what? I did everything that I could do, and I worked as hard as I could, and here's where I am. And I was so ashamed of who I was. I was humiliated, and I just went into berating myself over and over and over again. And when I started to come out of that and started to lift my head back up and open the curtains a little bit, I started to make another choice, because I really did not want to go back into human resources. But here's the thing. When you're deep in what you should be doing, right, or how you should be continuing to do the same thing over and over again, you can't actually acknowledge, or it doesn't really pop up for you, what's not working. And so this gave me the opportunity to look at what did I enjoy and what didn't I enjoy. And I really came to the understanding that human resources was no longer going to be my main focus. It wasn't giving me everything that I desired. It wasn't giving me the joy and the excitement. And I wasn't jumping out of bed excited to move forward with my life. And so I started to look at starting my own business. And that's what I did. And when I look back now, I understand that I needed to get pushed down and pushed down and pushed down, so I would finally pop up into who I was meant to be in this world. And I have said more times than you could possibly imagine, I love what I do. I love what I do. I love the people I get to work with. I meet very cool people every single week. I get to hear brilliant experts every single week on here on our network. I get to meet amazing people that are out there determined to change the world. And I created this platform and I get to enjoy it at the same time. I friggin' love what I do. But here's the thing, my friends. If I hadn't have hit that dip hard, I couldn't have bounced back up. I couldn't have bounced back up. I would have stayed putting my head down and trying not to be seen and trying to make it work. I could have actually created dis-ease in my body, and my body could have not been able to continue, and I would have maybe passed away, which is still a choice. Because trying to make something work when your joy and your heart and your love is not in it is actually a way to kill yourself too. So what if that dip is bringing you down so you can pop up and you can move forward in a bigger, better direction, right? What if? Would you be willing to play with that question? What if this could change? What if this isn't the worst thing that has ever happened to me? What if this is actually going to bring me into my future that I've been dreaming about? What if? Well, here's the thing. If you know that what you're doing, you're not enjoying, or things aren't going great, and you know something has to change, or you're desiring for something to change, you're desiring for greater business opportunities, you're desiring for a wider client base, your desire to even increase your prices, right? When you move into that space, when you begin to up level, especially in business, your lines of business must, capital letters, must change. They must change. Here's the thing that a lot of people don't talk about is a lot of individuals who hire you, clients and customers who hire you at let's say at your entry point, when you started your business, maybe you were charging, I remember when I started coaching, I was charging $100 a month, which was $25 an hour. Okay. When I up leveled myself and I began to up level my prices, the customers and clients that were paying that $100 a month, they could not imagine paying more than that, because that is what they got used to. And here's the thing is if you're the valuable content that they are hiring each and every month, you don't change. So why would they have to pay more? Because it's still you, Christine. I'm still getting you. So why would I have to pay more for you? So those clients can't see beyond where they were with you. So oftentimes what will occur is those clients will go away. But here's what I want you to remember, and then we're going to go for our last break. If something is laid on your heart, to grow in a direction and you're excited about it, I want you to know that 100%, absolutely, the universe has got your back. Now, the question is, do you have your back? Do you have your back? Are you willing to stand strong and go, you know what? I'm worth more than $100 a month. Are you? I was so petrified. And here's the funny thing. I was making over $100,000 a year in that HR job. And then I turned around and I thought I was only worth $100 a month to coach people. Now, did I have a lot of room to grow? I did. And I'm happy to say that I have grown and I continue to grow. But my friends, when you're ready to up level, the opportunities are there. The same people may not stay on your train, and that's okay. But know that no matter what, when you are in your joy and you are in your strength of knowing I am valuable and what I bring to the table is valuable, and it is time for an up leveling of both possibly your services and your pricing, there is going to be a change. So if you can prepare yourself for that, you may not go into a really deep, long dip. That's up to you. All of this information, everything that I'm sharing with you tonight, is very normal for any business owner to go through. And this is where we actually have our growing pains. And it doesn't have to be as difficult as perhaps it has been in the past. So we're going to jump over to our last break of the show. Please stick around. You're listening to Inspired Choices with myself, Christine McIver, here on the Inspired Choices Network. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
Many of us make choices based on our past experiences or based on what others believe. What would our lives be like if we made our choices based on what we desire for our futures? When you join the Inspired Choices show with business optimization expert Christine McIver, you'll be provoked to look at what is true and what you know, but may not choose, that requires your attention. Christine does not hold back. She brings all her expertise to every show. Are you ready to create and live the life you truly desire? Listen for Inspired Choices every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Inspired Choices Show with business optimization expert Christine McIver. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@InspiredChoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Hi, my friends. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun too. And I hope this is really starting to land with you and for you to understand that it doesn't have to be terrible. The dips don't have to be life-threatening, and they don't have to threaten your business. But the thing of it is that you've got to come up out of those old patterns so you can start to really watch yourself, and observe what you are choosing and you're reacting to. Because a reaction is going to tell you you're not being present with your values. You're not being present with what is really important to you. Because if you were, you would not be going into reaction. A person who is confident, who is present, who is aware that change is always going to be occurring, is not going to go into reaction. They will sit quietly, they'll get calm, and then they'll go into response. They'll make a choice that is going to serve them and serve the people around them even better than it did yesterday. So please be willing to get down and dirty with all of that from your past. Even if your past was yesterday, even if you had a reaction today, it's okay. It doesn't matter. It only matters about what you're choosing going forward. Remember this, that in order for something to change, change must happen. So if you're desiring for more money, there has to be a change. There has to be a change in what you're offering, how you're offering it, how often you're offering it, what the price of that offer is, who that client base is going to be, what the product is that you're going to be creating. Something has to change. Just providing or offering the same product and service and up-leveling that price, just doing a price increase every year, is not going to be something that is going to really change things in your business. And here's the thing about it. What I know can play a lot of tricks on our mind is when we are not up-leveling ourselves. And if you're listening to any show here on the network, you probably are a lifelong learner and you're looking to constantly be growing yourself. But if you're not someone who is growing themselves, eventually when you're putting that price up and up and up, it can be niggling at you that you're not providing a greater product. And you can actually begin to have an internal fight with yourself. And it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I hope they don't realize that they can get this cheaper somewhere else, that I actually am doing the exact same thing, but they're just paying more. It's nearly, again, that could be a dip that is inviting you to grow yourself, inviting you to expand yourself and up-level yourself. It's so much more. What is that price increase based on? How much up-leveling? I love it, Jennifer. Thank you. It's so important that you're willing to be transparent with what you are offering and transparent with the pricing. Do not be ashamed of your pricing. I remember when I went from $100 a month. Are you ready? This is my next up level, to $125. That's as much as I thought I could increase it. And that was probably after a year of doing coaching like that. I'm telling you, I could barely make ends meet. It was really, really low. And here in my business today, well, a year ago, I up-leveled the services that we were providing. I was willing to look at the true value of what we were doing on a much more detailed basis. I was willing to stand up and believe in what we were offering. And we completely created new packages that showed that and offered that. And our business has been growing and growing and growing. And this is the very cool thing that I want you to get. This is so incredible, is that when you are in alignment, really in alignment with your value and what your genius is and what brings you pleasure, the customers will come pouring in. Now, I know when you're in the dip, it doesn't feel like that. I know because I was there. But I am telling you, it happens. And when someone told me that originally, I went, yeah, you're nuts. But it's true. It's absolutely true. So right now, my friends, the best thing you can do is reach out. Let's have a conversation. Let's move you through this with more ease and more gentleness. Be kind to yourself. You do not have to go into ridicule and beat yourself up. Let's move you forward so you can have more pleasure and the world can have more joy at what you're bringing as well. So, Christine at inspiredchoices.ca. Next week, we're talking about staying stagnant will kill your currency. This is such an important conversation, and it really follows from what we were talking about today. So I would love to have you join me there. I would love to have you like or comment wherever you're listening, whatever on-demand platform you're listening to, or if there's nowhere you can comment, please send me an email. I'd love to hear your feedback. It's amazing when people tell me what was really an aha for them. And if you have a topic or an area of business that you would love to know more about, you can send a suggestion in to me as well. So again, thank you so much for being here. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, and we'll have some more interesting stories and some more exciting conversation to have. So thank you again. Remember, my friends, no matter what is going on in your world, you can always make another choice. Until next time.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Inspired Choices Show. Christine McIver will return next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, be willing to choose what you really desire. This is your life, making the choices that bring you all that you desire. Thank you for choosing to listen to Inspired Choices Show. Christine McIver will return next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, be willing to choose what you really desire. This is your life, making the choices that bring you all that you desire.